The day I received my retirement package of $2.2 million after 32 years at Reynolds Construction Group, I came home 2 hours early to surprise my husband. But as I opened the front door of our home in Denver, Colorado, I heard his voice from the second floor, speaking on the phone. "Don't worry, babe. Once the divorce is finalized, we'll have at least half, maybe more if her lawyer is incompetent." I stood paralyzed at the foot of the hardwood staircase, the same staircase where we had taken Christmas photos for 30 years, the same staircase I walked up the day we bought this house back in 2000. What my husband didn't know, what none of them knew, is that I had heard everything, and what I would do next would change our lives forever. But before I get into the story, support me by liking this video and subscribing right now. I also want to say hello to you all. Leave your name, your city, and ideas for future stories in the comments. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Sullivan. I am 65 years old. That morning, I had received the retirement package I had dreamed of for decades. 32 years of 4-hour days, weekends working, missed family dinners, canceled trips, all culminating in a single moment. My boss, CEO, Harold Reynolds, had hugged me with tears in his eyes, telling me I had earned every single penny. The company organized a farewell lunch for me at Union Station. My colleagues gifted me a gold watch with a plaque that read, "To Elizabeth, an exemplary architect, 1993-2025. I drove back home with the signed papers in the passenger seat, imagining the look on my husband Robert's face when I told him that finally, we were financially secure for the rest of our lives. Instead, I was standing in my own entryway, listening to my husband plan my financial destruction. I didn't go up the stairs. I didn't confront him. I left my briefcase in silence, went back to my car, and drove to a Starbucks on Colfax Avenue, 3 miles away. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. For the next hour, sitting in that coffee shop, sipping a hot chocolate I couldn't swallow, I replayed every moment of our marriage. There had been signs. Of course there had. Robert had become distant over the last year. He had started going to the Equinox gym 6 times a week. New designer clothes, a trendy haircut from an expensive barber in Cherry Creek. He had put a passcode on his phone for the first time in our marriage. When I asked him about it, he laughed and said, "Elizabeth, everyone has passcodes now. Don't be so old-fashioned." I believed him because I trusted him, because I had spent 32 years building a life with him, because he was my husband, the father of my children, my partner. But sitting in that coffee shop, watching life go on normally for everyone else through the window, I realized something crucial. Robert didn't know about the retirement package yet. The official announcement wouldn't hit my company email until tomorrow. He couldn't have known, which meant he had been planning this divorce anyway, probably assuming he would just get a share of my regular $401k and Social Security. The $2.2 million was an unexpected bonus he had just found out about somehow. I pulled out my phone and called my colleague Sarah from the IT department. Sarah had worked with me for 15 years. She was the only person I could trust. "Sarah, I need to ask you for something important. Can you check who accessed my retirement file before it was officially announced?" There was a pause. "Elizabeth, I could get in trouble for that. Please, Sarah. It's urgent." 15 minutes later, Sarah called me back. Her voice sounded tense. "Your file was accessed the day before yesterday at 3:45 p.m. by Lauren Castle in HR. But Elizabeth, there's something else. The file was emailed to an external address. You can see the domain. It's RyanMillerWealthDivorce.com. Ryan Miller, Divorce Advisory and Asset Protection." I Googled him right there in the coffee shop. The website showed a professional photo of a man in his mid-40s, handsome, fit, smiling with confidence. The services included retirement planning, financial advisory for divorce, asset protection, and marital settlement maximization. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the floor disappear beneath my feet. So that was the man he was talking to. Not just a financial advisor specializing in divorce. Someone who helped spouses strip everything from their partners. And someone in HR, Lauren Castle, had illegally sent my confidential information to him. Lauren Castle. I knew Lauren. She had worked at Reynolds Construction for 7 years. She had never seemed particularly close to Robert, but of course, I had never paid attention. I had been too busy working, managing projects, being the main provider for our family for 3 decades. I drove back home 3 hours later. Robert was in the kitchen making lasagna as if nothing had happened. He smiled when he saw me. "You're late. How was your day?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I had loved for 30 years, the father of my children, the person with whom I had built my entire adult life. It was fine. Just wrapping up some final projects at the office. I didn't tell him about the retirement package. I didn't tell him anything. I went upstairs, changed my clothes, and came down for dinner. We ate lasagna. We watched the 9 o'clock news. We went to sleep, and the whole time my mind was racing with a single thought. I needed a plan. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. Robert was still sleeping. I drove to a law firm in Colorado Springs, 50 miles away from anyone who might know us. The lawyer was named Patricia Moore. I had found her online. She specialized in high-asset divorces. Friends, every story I tell you happens every day, but YouTube will only show them to you if you hit the red subscribe button. Tap subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and you'll never miss a story. Thank you. Patricia was a woman of about 58, with piercing eyes and an impeccable burgundy suit. I told her everything. The retirement package, the phone conversation I had overheard, the email sent from HR, the guy named Ryan Miller. She leaned back in her leather chair. "Mrs. Sullivan, I'm going to be very direct with you. Your husband is planning to divorce you and take half your retirement, possibly more if he can argue he contributed to your career success, which, in a 30-year marriage, he likely could argue." I felt my stomach churn. "However," Patricia continued, "we have several significant advantages. First, he doesn't know that you know. Second, the HR employee who sent your information committed a federal crime under data privacy laws. Third, if we can prove your husband has an extramarital relationship with this financial advisor that creates a conflict of interest and, coupled with the conspiracy to defraud you, puts us in a very strong position. Fourth, you haven't officially received the money yet. The papers are signed, but according to your company policy, the wire transfer doesn't happen for 35 days, correct?" "Correct. So, what do I do?" Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had won many battles. "You act normal. You gather evidence. And in 35 days, we ensure that retirement package is protected in ways he cannot touch." I left her office with a list of instructions. Document everything. Record conversations where legal Colorado is a one-party consent state. Hire a private investigator. Do not move money yet. Do not change passwords. Do not let him know I suspected anything. For the next week, I played the role of the oblivious wife to perfection. I went to my farewell lunches with colleagues at the Capitol Grill and Denver Union Station. I cleaned out my office in the downtown tower. I brought home my plants, my awards, the photos of 32 years of architectural projects. Robert helped me set up a home office in the room that had been our daughter Danielle's before she got married. He was attentive, affectionate. "I was thinking we could finally take that trip to Spain you always wanted," he told me one night while we drank aged bourbon on the deck. "You've always wanted to see the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. It sounds wonderful. We should start planning." He squeezed my hand. "I'm so proud of you, Elizabeth. 32 years. You worked so hard. You were the best architect in Denver." I squeezed his hand back. "We built this life together, honey." The lies tasted like ash in my mouth. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator named Mark Vance. Mark was a former detective, about 60 years old, professional and discreet. I gave him Ryan Miller's information. I gave him Robert's schedule. I authorized whatever expenses he needed. Mark called me 5 days later. "Mrs. Sullivan, I have what you need. Can you come to my office?" I drove there immediately. His office was in a discreet commercial plaza near the Broncos Stadium. Mark had a folder waiting for me. Inside were photographs. Robert and Ryan Miller having lunch at a restaurant in Boulder, 30 miles from our house. Robert and Ryan Miller entering a hotel in Cherry Creek. Timestamps, dates. The affair had been going on for 9 months. "There's more," Mark said, pushing another folder toward me. "I investigated Miller. He specializes in helping spouses maximize divorce settlements. His website says he offers pre-divorce asset analysis." What that really means is he helps identify and plan how to extract the maximum value from a marriage before filing the lawsuit. He's been involved in at least 15 divorces in the last 4 years. In 13 of them, his clients walked away with significantly more than 50%. Various tactics: hiding assets before filing, strategic timing. In 3 cases, there is evidence he advised his clients to create documentation suggesting financial abuse or control by their partner. I looked at the photographs. Robert smiling at this man. Robert with his hand on this man's arm in a hotel parking lot. Robert kissing this man in the car. 30 years. 30 years of marriage, 3 children. A whole life, all reduced to these photographs. Get me everything, I said. Every meeting, every communication, everything. I'm already on it, Mark replied. That night, Robert made pot roast, my favorite. He asked about my day. I told him I had gone shopping at the Cherry Creek Mall. He believed me. Why wouldn't he? I had never lied to him in 30 years of marriage. That night, lying next to my husband, staring at the ceiling of our bedroom, part of me wanted to confront him immediately, to scream, to demand answers, to cry, but Patricia's voice echoed in my head. Don't let him know you know. Gather evidence. Protect yourself. So, I waited. 2 weeks after my retirement, the official announcement came out. I was in my home office when Robert walked in, his phone in his hand. His face showed a mixture of surprise and calculated excitement. Elizabeth, I just saw in the company alumni WhatsApp group you got a retirement package. How much was it? I had prepared for this moment. Patricia had coached me on exactly what to say. It's complicated. It's a pension restructure. Part is immediate payment, part is an annuity. The company is still finalizing the numbers. But approximately how much? I shrugged, feigning disinterest. After taxes and the annuity setup, probably around $1 million immediate. The rest comes in payments over 25 years. Robert's face fell slightly. He had been expecting the full $2.2 million up front. Oh, well, that's still wonderful. We can do a lot with $1 million. We can, I agreed. Though most of it should probably stay invested for our actual retirement, for medical expenses when we're older. He nodded. But I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was recalculating, adjusting his plans with Ryan Miller. That night, I heard him on the phone again. I had installed a recording device in our bedroom, following Patricia's recommendation. Since only one party needs to consent in Colorado and I was a party to the conversation occurring in my home, we were on safe ground, or so I hoped. Robert went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and made his call. It's less than we thought. She says it's $1 million immediate, the rest is structured payments. There was a pause while the person on the other end spoke. I know. But we can't wait anymore. I'm turning 63 next month. We need to file soon. Another pause. Yes, I understand the timing is bad, but it's okay. Yeah, I'll see you Thursday at the same place. I played that recording for Patricia the next morning. She listened carefully, making notes on her legal pad. Perfect. This establishes clear intent and planning. Now, this is what we are going to do. The transfer of the retirement package happens in 14 days. When it hits your account, we are going to move it immediately into an asset protection trust we're establishing this week. It is legal, solid, and specifically designed for retirement assets. Then, we are going to file for divorce first. Wait, I file first? Absolutely. In the U.S. legal system, the petitioner often controls the venue and the narrative. More importantly, with the evidence we have of the affair and the financial conspiracy, specifically the unauthorized access of your data, you will be in the driver's seat. He'll be scrambling to respond. Patricia pulled out detailed spreadsheets. Your house is worth approximately $800,000. You have $250,000 in joint savings. Your 401 has another $400,000. His IRA has around $90,000. You have 2 paid-off cars, some mutual fund investments. In a normal divorce, he would be entitled to approximately half of the marital assets. But Elizabeth, this is not a normal divorce. He has committed marital fraud. He conspired to defraud you with his lover. He is planning to hide assets. We are going to argue for a disproportionate division in your favor, and I believe we will get it. And the retirement package? The retirement package is your separate property if we structure it correctly. arguing it as compensation for your professional tenure earned solely by you and protecting it via the trust. He will fight, but with the documented affair and the financial conspiracy involving federal data crimes, he won't have much leverage. I sat in silence, processing everything. When we file the day after your money deposits, we'll have everything ready. Trust established, divorce papers prepped, evidence compiled. It will hit him like a freight train. For the next 14 days, I played my role perfectly. I talked to Robert about retirement trips. We looked at smaller houses in the suburbs for eventually downsizing. He showed me brochures for retirement communities in Florida. All the while, he was planning to leave me. And all the while, I was planning to protect everything I had worked 32 years to build. Mark continued the surveillance. He documented 4 more meetings between Robert and Ryan Miller. He obtained records showing that Miller had advised Robert to start documenting financial control behaviors on my part. There were notes on how I made all the financial decisions, how I kept him in the dark about money, how I was controlling and emotionally abusive. None of it was true. Robert had full access to all our accounts for 30 years. He had simply never been interested in managing them. He preferred that I handle it while he focused on his job at the car dealership. But Ryan Miller was coaching him to build a case of financial abuse, to paint me as the villain, to justify taking more than half of everything. My blood boiled every time Mark showed me new evidence. On day 14, the retirement package hit my account at Wells Fargo, $2.2 million. I saw it appear on my mobile app at 9:45 a.m. By 11:15 a.m., Patricia had wired everything to the Elizabeth Sullivan Retirement Trust. By 11:45 a.m., the trust was locked and protected. At 3 p.m. that same day, Robert was served with divorce papers at our house. I wasn't there. Patricia had advised me to stay at a hotel that day. A colleague of Mark's delivered the papers and recorded Robert's reaction. He was in shock, completely blindsided. He immediately called Ryan Miller. Then he called a lawyer. By 6 p.m., Robert's lawyer had called Patricia. Patricia played the voicemail for me. The lawyer sounded confused and annoyed. They wanted to know about the retirement package. They wanted to negotiate. Patricia returned the call the next morning. I was in her office. She put the call on speaker. "My client is willing to discuss a settlement," Patricia said calmly. "However, I must inform you that we have extensive documentation of Mr. Robert Sullivan's affair with Mr. Ryan Miller, including photographs, hotel records, and recorded conversations discussing plans to maximize his divorce settlement through fraudulent claims of financial abuse." There was silence on the other end. "Furthermore," Patricia continued, her voice perfectly serene, "we have evidence that Mr. Sullivan obtained confidential information about Mrs. Sullivan's retirement package through illegal means. An HR employee at Reynolds Construction sent private documents to Mr. Miller. We are prepared to file criminal complaints regarding the violation of federal data privacy laws and wire fraud against both Mr. Miller and the HR employee if necessary." More silence. I could hear the lawyer breathing heavily. If you want to know how this story ends and hear many more, hit the red subscribe button. It's free and helps me a lot. Thank you. "Now," Patricia said, "here is what we are proposing. Mr. Sullivan receives 35% of the marital assets, excluding the retirement package. That includes 35% of the home equity, 35% of the joint savings, his full IRA, and 1 vehicle. The retirement package remains Mrs. Sullivan's separate property in her protected trust. In exchange, we will not pursue criminal charges regarding the data theft and will not publicly disclose the details of his conspiracy and the nature of the relationship. You have 48 hours to respond." Patricia hung up. I stared at her. Will he accept? He has no choice. If this goes to trial, the fraud allegations destroy him. He probably gets less than 35% of other assets due to the dissipation of assets on the affair. This is a gift. 45 hours later, Robert's lawyer called back. They accepted the deal. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of paperwork and property division. Robert moved out of our house into an apartment in Aurora. Ryan Miller disappeared completely from the picture once his potential criminal liability became clear. The HR employee, Lauren Castle, was fired from Reynolds Construction and is facing charges for privacy violations. Robert and I met one last time to sign the final papers. It was at Patricia's office. Robert looked older somehow, tired. He couldn't look me in the eye. When we were leaving, he stopped. Elizabeth, he said quietly, I'm sorry. I know that means nothing now, but I am sorry. I looked at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. Why? I asked. Just tell me why. He shook his head. I don't know. I felt invisible. You worked so much. And Ryan. It was stupid. I was stupid. You weren't being stupid, I said. Planning to destroy me financially? That isn't stupidity. That is calculated. That is betrayal. I know. His voice cracked. I know. And I'll have to live with that. He walked away. I watched him go. 30 years vanished in an instant. But I survived. The house sold for $850,000. After the division, I walked away with approximately $550,000 from the sale, plus my $401, my protected retirement package, and my dignity intact. Robert got his share and moved to Florida with a cousin. I haven't heard from him since. I bought a smaller house just outside of Estes Park, near the Rocky Mountain National Park. 3 bedrooms, a workshop for woodworking projects, and a spectacular view of Long's Peak. I spend my days now making wooden furniture, hiking the trails, and volunteering at the local senior center. I reconnected with my 3 children, Charles, 38, Danielle, 35, and Michael, 32. I explained everything to them. They were hurt, but they understood. They had also seen their father's distance. 6 months after the divorce, I received a call from my old colleague Sarah. Elizabeth, I thought you should know. Lauren Castle tried to sue Reynolds Construction for wrongful termination. The case was thrown out immediately. The judge said the evidence of her privacy violation was so clear it didn't even require deliberation. And there's more. Ryan Miller is being investigated by the SEC and FINRA. 4 other people have filed complaints with similar stories, 2 women and 2 men. Apparently, his entire business model was based on helping people defraud their partners in divorces. His license has been revoked. I thanked Sarah and hung up. I didn't feel exactly happy, just a sense of quiet justice, like when you see the universe finally balance the scales. But the story didn't end there. 3 months after that call, I received a WhatsApp message from an unknown number. It was a woman named Andrea Morris. She said she was Robert's new partner and needed to talk to me urgently. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to know anything about Robert's life, but curiosity won out. I agreed to meet her at a cafe in Colorado Springs, halfway between us. Andrea turned out to be a woman in her 50s, elegant, but with a look of deep concern. Mrs. Sullivan, thank you for coming. I know this is strange, but I needed to warn you about something. Warn me? Andrea pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. Robert told me you 2 divorced because you had an affair, that you hid money from him, that you were abusive and controlling. For months, I believed him. But 2 weeks ago, I found these messages on his phone. The messages were between Robert and another financial advisor. Different name, but exactly the same scheme. Robert was planning to do exactly the same thing to me that he had tried to do with Andrea. He is looking for another woman with money, Andrea said with tears in her eyes. I sold my boutique business 6 months ago. I received $1.5 million. Now I understand that was the exact moment he became more attentive, more affectionate. He plans to marry me and then divorce me to keep half. I sat in silence, processing this information. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Because I Googled your name. I found articles about your case, about how you protected your assets. I need to know how you did it, and I thought you deserved to know the truth about who he really is. I gave her Patricia Moore's contact information. I told her my full story. I showed her she wasn't alone, that justice was possible. Andrea ended her relationship with Robert that same week. He tried to convince her that I was a bitter liar, but Andrea had seen the messages. She knew the truth. Robert ended up alone in Florida, working a part-time job selling tours to tourists. His reputation in Denver was destroyed. The few friends he had left walked away when the full story came to light. But the biggest revelation came a year after the divorce. My son Charles came to visit me in Estes Park. He brought his wife Laura and my 2 grandkids. After lunch, while the kids played in the yard, Charles sat with me on the deck. Mom, I need to tell you something I've been keeping for a long time. My heart raced. What is it, son? 3 years ago, Dad asked to borrow money from me. He said he had an investment opportunity, $20,000. I gave him the money because he was my father. He never paid me back. When I asked him, he said the investment hadn't worked out. Charles pulled out his phone and showed me old emails. But a few months ago, while cleaning out old emails, I found this. Dad never made any investment. He used my money to pay for hotels and dinners with Ryan Miller for an entire year. Tears ran down Charles's cheeks. He didn't just betray you, Mom. He betrayed all of us. He used his own son's money to fund his affair. I hugged him while he cried. My 8-year-old son, a successful industrial engineer with his own family, crying like a child over his father's betrayal. Danielle and Michael know, he continued. We all found things. Danielle discovered that Dad had sold some of Grandma's jewelry that was supposed to be for her. Michael found that Dad forged his signature on a document years ago. We wanted to tell you sooner, but we didn't know how. That night, after Charles left, I sat on my deck looking at Long's Peak illuminated by the moon. I thought about all the years, all the lies, all the betrayal that went deeper than I had imagined. But I also thought about something else. I thought about how I had protected not just my future, but my children's future. How I had fought not with screaming or violence, but with intelligence and strategy. Robert hadn't just lost a marriage. He had lost his children. He had lost his reputation. He had lost his dignity. And I had gained something more valuable than money. I had gained the respect of my children, the admiration of my community, and the peace of knowing I had done the right thing. Justice, I learned, isn't always immediate, but when it arrives, it is complete. Today I am 66 years old. It has been a year and a half since the divorce. My life is completely different, and when I say different, I mean better. My $2.2 million is safe in the trust, generating interest that allows me to live comfortably without touching the principal. My house in Estes Park is my sanctuary. I have a workshop where I make wooden furniture that I sell at the artisan market on weekends. Not because I need the money, but because I love creating things with my hands after 32 years of designing buildings on a computer. My children visit me regularly. Charles and Laura bring the grandkids every 2 weeks. Danielle, who got divorced 5 years ago, moved closer, and now we are best friends as well as mother and daughter. Michael just got married, and his wife is wonderful. They have all told me they are proud of how I handled the situation with their father. 3 months ago, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Robert tried to contact the kids, asking to borrow money. All three told him no, not with anger, but with clear boundaries. They told him he needed to take responsibility for his own decisions. Robert now works as a security guard at a resort complex in Florida. He lives alone in a small apartment. From what I was told, he drinks more than he should. He looks 20 years older than his 63 years. I don't feel joy at his suffering, but I don't feel guilt either. He made his decisions. I made mine. What I want you to understand if you are listening to this story and identify with any part of it is this. Betrayal hurts. The betrayal of someone you loved for decades hurts in places you didn't even know existed in your soul. But pain doesn't mean you should act out of pain. That day I arrived home early and heard that phone conversation. I could have run up the stairs screaming. I could have confronted Robert immediately. I could have acted from pure emotion, and I would have lost everything. Instead, I chose strategy. I chose intelligence. I chose to protect myself first before seeking justice. My advice for anyone in a similar situation is this: don't act on emotion. Document. Plan. Protect yourself first, then seek justice through the right channels. The legal system exists for a reason. Specialized lawyers exist for a reason. Private investigators exist for a reason. Use them. Don't be ashamed to protect what is yours. Don't feel guilty for being smarter than the person who tried to betray you. And above all, don't let anyone make you feel that you were cruel for protecting your future. I wasn't cruel. I was smart. I was strategic. I was fair. Robert got exactly what he deserved under the law, nothing more, nothing less. Now, when I sit on my deck at sunset, with a French press coffee in my hands, watching the mountains change color with the sunlight, I think about the entire journey. I think about the Elizabeth of 2 years ago who heard that phone conversation and felt her world collapsing, and I think about the Elizabeth of today who built a completely new world. The best revenge, I learned, isn't destroying the person who betrayed you. The best revenge is building a life so beautiful, so peaceful, so full of purpose, that the betrayal becomes just a small chapter in a much bigger story. I earned my retirement, I earned my freedom, I earned my dignity, and in the end, That is the only victory that matters. If you liked this story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments which part impressed you the most. Did Robert deserve forgiveness? Tell me yes or no below. Tomorrow there are more stories. See you there. This narrative is solely for the purpose of inspiring reflection on marital relationships, the importance of asset protection, the value of a lifetime of work, and dignity in moments of betrayal. It should not be interpreted as legal, financial, or any other type of professional advice. If you are facing divorce, marital betrayal, or complex financial situations, seek the support of qualified professionals such as family law attorneys, certified financial planners, or therapists. This content is suitable for all audiences and complies with YouTube's family-friendly content guidelines.